Welcome to the June 4th, 2021 video version of the Wagner Daily. My name is Rick Petticelli, and as usual, once a week, this video replaces the written commentary portion of our report. Hopefully it serves as a nice change of pace, as well as offers some insight as to how we set up charts, what time frames and indicators we use. On the chart to the left here is our daily chart. You can see we keep it pretty simple. 10 and 20 EMAs, 50 and 200 SMA, an RS line which compares the relative strength of whatever chart I have up versus the S&P 500. And then we have volume with the volume moving average. And same setup basically on the weekly, a few moving averages. We have the 10 and 20, which factor into our trading. And then the 30 and 40 week MA, really just to gauge the strength of trend. Then we have volume with a moving average. So pretty simple setup. So first we're going to run through a few broad market averages, then go into open positions in the model portfolio, and then we'll wrap it up with a few stocks off our watch list, what we're keeping an eye on. So first up is the Nasdaq Composite, which closed 1% lower, closed below the 10, 20, and 50-day MAs. This index was on a buy signal after it reclaimed the 20-day EMA and held. But Thursday's break of the 20 on a pickup in volume now puts the buy signal under some pressure here. We'll see if it can hold up. A break of Thursday's low would likely generate a sell signal in the Nasdaq, but we are looking for, if the price action does break the low, there could be some sort of shakeout here and a quick reversal back above. However, if the price does break the low and doesn't recover, then we look for a possible pullback to this 13,300 level to fill this gap here. And on the weekly chart, that would line up with a pullback to the 30-week moving average. And if that was next week, somewhere around here, so say 13,300 right around here. And the 20-week EMA has provided support on a closing basis, so we'll have to see if that continues if the Nasdaq does pull back in. Of course, that's just one scenario. Certainly, the Nasdaq did close off the lows of the session, so there were some buyers willing to step in here on the pullback, and we'll see if there's enough negativity out there to catch people off guard and possibly see the Nasdaq reclaim Thursday's high. The S&P 500 remains the leading index, and it managed to close back above the 10 and 20 EMAs and in the top third of the day's range versus the Nasdaq, which closed right at the 49% level, so about midday's range there. So some relative strength in the S&P, which has shown relative strength over the past few months. In the short term, we're looking for the S&P to hold Thursday's low. Does have support from the rising 10-week moving average here as well. But if this area doesn't hold, then we look for another test of the 50 MA. And last up is IWP, the S&P 400 midcap, which tracks growth stocks, the kind of stocks we like to trade in this newsletter. Like the Nasdaq, it gapped lower and closed below the 10, 20, and 50 MAs. We'll have to see if it can recover back above Thursday's high with the next few days, or if it breaks Thursday's low and heads lower. And like the Nasdaq, a fill of this gap here would be the first obvious support level. All right, on to open positions in the model portfolio. We have UPST, which were up about 10% from the first entry at 150 and up about 2% from the ad at 160. The stock has a monster ATR, so being up 10% isn't even one ATR really in this stock. And that means that it could just easily pull back in. It's very volatile. We have a stop in place beneath Thursday's low for our ad and beneath Wednesday's low for the original entry. NVIDIA, we're long on the base breakout with a slightly higher entry at like 662. And the price action is a bit extended in the short term from the 10-day MA. And because of that, we're going with a tight stop here. We're going to sell NVIDIA if it breaks this uptrend line and just look for a re-entry somewhere off an eventual test of the 10-day EMA. That's if the Nasdaq holds up. And Roblox, we're in from 78. We had a partial sell around 89. We have a stop in place around 95 beneath the low of 62. after 2 days in a row stalling at the Century level here. And it could see a pullback to the 10-day EMA. So again, the stop for partial size is Wednesday's low. Stop for the remaining shares is beneath this wide range bar on 527. And SE we sold earlier today. We purchased on this nice reversal candle here with a lower low and then took out the prior day's high. So it's an outside day candle on volume. Unfortunately, it failed to follow through over 3 sessions with the price action stalling at the high of 527 and reversed lower on Thursday, and we're out beneath the 3-day low with a 1.8% loss. As for stocks on our watch list, and it's tough out there for the breakout trader, especially in the Nasdaq. There isn't much going on in the Nasdaq. There are some subtle entries here and there, and that's probably the best bet in terms of entry points, trying to look for a move off of support off a moving average rather than looking at a 10 or 20-day high, as there's just not that sort of power out there to make the reward to risk ratios favorable on those type of trades. So on the watch list, we have ADM, which put in a nice reversal candle on Thursday after testing the 10-day MA. A move over Thursday's high would signal that it's potentially in play. CLF broke its downtrend line on a pickup in volume and formed a nice reversal candle today after undercutting the lows of the gap up day and the 10 and 20-day EMAs. Could be in play after a pause day, possibly on Friday, and then look for a move up and then a possible breakout above 2080. CF, one to watch here, especially if it tightens up in this area and then eventually breaks out through 55.60. TTM, a nice little cup here with a handle. Failed to break out on Thursday, but if the price can move back through Thursday's high, could be in play. FDX with a false breakout a few days ago and an undercut of a prior high or low, and the 20-day EMA, if the price action can hold Thursday's low and maybe chop around for a day or two, could be in play. EXTR is also one we're watching. Sharp move off the lows, which isn't ideal action, but a few weeks of chop here, not too bad. Look for the price to move higher and eventually take out this 1170 area. MTW broke the downtrend line, rallied above the rising 10 MA. Look for a test of the 10 MA somewhere around 26, a potential buy entry, especially if there's a reversal candle there. Just something to watch out for. BG broke the downtrend line and is back above the 20 EMA. Could be interesting here, especially if the price can move back through 90. And we're still keeping an eye on former Nasdaq leadership. Some names are CRWD. You know, do they tighten up and hold the 20, or do they sell off down to the 50 or possibly even the 200? SE, Snap, same type of setups there. So just a quick recap. The S&P 500 remains the leading index, still above the 20 EMA, has leadership from the energy sector. The Nasdaq Composite is back below the 20, could trigger a sell signal as early as Friday, and so far lacks leadership with the exception of a few IPOs in software and maybe some strength in semiconductors, but NVIDIA leading that charge, but not much else. All right, that's a wrap for tonight's video. Thanks for joining me, and I'll talk to you next week. Have a great weekend.